Hello, friends, and welcome to Into Fly Fishing. Today, we're out here on the river to talk to you about the 10 best fly lines for 2024. So let's get going. Thanks for being here, everybody. This is Into Fly Fishing, and I'm Nick Jovanovich. And as I said before, we're here to talk about the 10 best fly lines for this year, 2024. Now, a little bit about me before we get started. I've been fly fishing for over 35 years of my life. I've been a professional guide in Southwest Montana for the last 15 years. So I've used and abused a lot of lines. I've watched other people use and abuse those same lines as well. And to make this list complete, we did a lot of testing. We did water testing. We did dry land testing. We did a lot of polling. We also did a lot of longevity testing as well. So yes, this is going to be a subjective list. It's just the nature of the thing. But we feel this is a pretty good representation of the best lines available to you, the consumer, this year. Now, before we get too far into this video, if you could just take a moment and like this video and follow us here on this channel, that would be a big deal. Thank you so much. It helps out a ton when you do that. Please remember that everything you see in this video, the links are available in the description. If you click those, you like one of these lines, you want to click one of those, it'll help us out too. And we'll keep bringing all these videos to you. Thank you very much on that front as well. So let's get on with this top 10 ranking. Now, as I discussed before, there's going to be a lot of different people's opinion on what the best fly lines are out there available for you right now. And it's going to depend on what you're using them for, your particular casting style, and the equipment that you're using, the rod that you're casting and the reel. More the rod than the reel, but you get the idea. This list was also put together with a lot of personal trial and error and polling other people whose opinions I trust very much. So that is a disclaimer on this video. And also, a word on longevity. I just want to be abundantly clear. Fly lines are not forever purchases. Some people purchase a fly line and expect it to last for the entirety of their setup or as long as they're going to be fishing, and that's not the case. If you're fishing a couple of times a year, your fly line's going to last a few years. You're going to have to condition it and make it nice and soft, retain that supple feel and texture, because over time, things can dry out and start to crack. The more you fish, the more you're going to need to replace your fly lines. Again, these are not forever purchases. They will wear out, and you're going to have to keep buying new ones, all right? So let's get going with this list. Now, categories that we decided to go with this time were, number one, best overall multi-purpose fly line. Number two, we did the runner-up for the best overall multi-purpose fly line as well. Number three, best floating fly line, dry fly specific. Number four, best nymph-specific floating line. Number five, the best sink or sink tip line. Number six is the best saltwater-specific float line. Number seven will be the best saltwater-specific sink line or sink tip line. For 8 and 9, we're doing the two best two-hand lines. Number 8 being the best Scandi-specific line. Number 9 being the best Skagit specific line. And to round it off, number 10 is the best overall budget line available this year. So those are the categories, and let's get into this list right now. So the winner this year for the best overall multi-purpose line, that's general presentation style line, is going to be the Scientific Anglers Amplitude MPX. And that might not surprise some people. The MPX is a general presentation style line. It's made to do it all. And the Scientific Anglers Amplitude MPX nails it very well. It's available in textured or non-textured, so your preference there. The texture adds some buoyancy. It also adds some shoot as well, a little bit of less water resistance. This line has great buoyancy, and it's really great for most presentations. Now, it's going to do a lot of things well. It's not going to do specific things extremely well, but it does a lot of different things quite well. And if you ask me, as far as dry fly fishing, this general presentation line is the best at dry fly fishing. The SA Amplitude MPX will come in at $129.99. So it is a top end line, but it performs like the price tag, and I think you'll like it. Now, the runner-up for the best overall or general presentation fly line is the Rio Elite Gold. And again, that's the top for general presentation trout line from Rio. So it's going to have some similar characteristics to the previous Scientific Anglers line. It is not available in a textured or in non-textured, however, so that knocked it down just a touch. And in my opinion, I think it's a little bit better at the nymph and indicator game Then the dry fly game, it does have a nice shooting head, great texture to the line, or great feel, I should say, not like a crosshatch or a ridge texture or anything like that. Great feel to the line. It shoots really well on most fly rods. And like the SA line, it's going to come in at just under $130. From there, we're going to go to the best dry fly specific line. And this year, top award goes to Monarch. Monarch Precision Dry Fly Stealth, to be exact. Now, Monarch is a newer or relatively newer company. It has kind of a cult following, and they're making some really, really good lines. So the Precision Dry Fly Stealth is not too light in the cast, yet light enough to make a nice, easy, and delicate dry fly presentation, even in slow and still water like you see behind me here. I'm not always a fan of float clear tip lines, to be honest, but this one is a clear tip float line that maintains its buoyancy well, and it seems to be holding up over time just fine. Now, this line comes in at just under $105, making it a little less expensive than the SA and the Rio. This is a great dry fly specific line. Now, the best floating line, nymph or indicator specific, had to go with the Rio Elite Indicator. As the name says, it's made for indicator fishing. It throws heavy or light nymph rigs very well. It shoots through the guides on most rods extremely easily. It's got low stretch, and it's got an overweighted shooting head and tip. So that there again makes the casting nice and easy. It makes the turning over wind resistant indicators and bigger flies nice and easy. And it floats well in a long drift. It makes long distance mending or mending over and over and over in a long drift a cinch. So top spot or indicator specific floating line, again, that is the Rio Elite Indicator. And this one is going to be $129.99. Now, the best sink line or sink tip line, this year the honor goes to Orvis. So Orvis fans, get excited. I know you don't always get high honors when it comes to fly lines, but I think that most folks are going to like this Hydros bank shot quite well. This Orvis Hydros bank shot is a beautiful line. It's got a great handling section. It casts exceptionally well, and that 10-foot fast sink tip gets flies down in a hurry into position. It's great on still water. You can use it in the lakes, and that 10-foot fast sink tip is wonderful if you're in a boat and you're moving downriver and you got to make casts over and over, smacking the bank with your streamer, getting a few rips, popping up and smacking it down again, just picking those spots as you go down in the boat. One more thing to get excited about with the Orvis Hydros bank shot is it only is going to cost you $90 for a decent higher end line. That's a great price. Now moving on to the best saltwater specific float line. Top honor this year is going to go to Scientific Anglers. Again, we're going to go with the Amplitude Smooth Infinity Salt. This is a fantastic line from the folks at Scientific Anglers. The Amplitude series is wonderful. It casts like a dream. It punches through the wind, and that's very important in the saltwater game, as you probably know. It's got a durable coating. It floats very well. And if you ask me, other lines can get a little bit too soft in the heat of the tropics. Scientific Anglers tends to be a little bit more stiff in my experience. And so when you take those lines down to the tropics, those tropic-specific saltwater lines are perfectly pliable, but still shoot through the guides on your rod amazingly well. Now, we picked the non-textured one on this because in the salt, I don't think you really need a texture. The salt adds a buoyancy. Anyhow, your line's going to float fairly well. Plus, those textures can pick up sand grains and little pieces of coral. And if you've ever had one slice through your finger, it kind of sucks. So I tend to stay away from the textured lines for the saltwater. Now moving on to the best saltwater specific sink or sink tip. Top honors for 2024 are going to go to Airflow for the Depth Finder Big Game Series. A lot of fans of Airflow, I kind of remember when they were a little lesser known and really burst onto the scene with some lower price but well-made lines. They've come a long way since then, and this line is really fantastic. So you've got a really good salt-specific toughness. You've got a great handling line, and you've got low stretch. You get a choice of 300 to 700 grains in that sink tip section. That helps you kind of pick and target how deep you want to fish this specific line. A lot of times you want a lighter line if you're targeting snook that are just kind of hovering right up underneath the mangroves, just a couple of inches underneath the surface. Or if you're fishing that drop off, whatever the case is, Airflow has you covered with this series. The Airflow Depth Finder Big Game is going to come in just under $110, making it a great price for a really nice performing line. All right, folks, let's talk about the two-handed lines now. Jumping into the best two-hand Scandi-specific line, we give top honors to Loop Tackle and their SDS Scandi kit. Now, Loop is made in Sweden by folks who know Scandi. That's where Scandi casting was developed, and Loop has some dialed stuff for you. Big following in Europe, cult following on the East Coast, not quite so well known out here in the West, but nonetheless, if you're in the Scandi game, I recommend checking out Loop. So the SDS stands for Synchrodynamic System. So this is a system of multiple tips, including a float, an S3 sync, and S5 sync interchangeable tips. So you get all of those in one package for $115. Not too shabby. That Loop SDS Scandi kit is something you should definitely check out. Now jumping over to the Skagit game, I got to give top honors to the peeps up in the Olympic Peninsula with OPST. OPST is Olympic Peninsula Skagit Tactics. Those guys eat, breathe, and sleep anadromous Skagit fishing, and they do a wonderful job building the tools to help us out with that game. OPST has a cult following again, and it's just something if you're in the Skagit game, you need to check out. The OPST Commando series is what we're giving top honors to this year, and it's 150 to 475 grain lines, these shooting heads for Skagit, the water-loaded Skagit casting. They're shorter heads than most people are used to, and this is so that you can use them on spey rods, switch rods, and even water-loading single-handed rods with these lines. It's kind of an incredible idea to bring out of needing a two-handed rod to water-loading a Skagit-type cast and line on a single-hand rod. Interesting, right? Well, guess what? They work on all of them, and even on your traditional big two-handed Skagit rods, they punch really, really, really well. So these compact heads, not only do they work well on multiple types of rods, they're really easy to set an anchor, spin it, and punch it. Unlike a lot of longer, heavy head lines, these feel a little bit less cumbersome. They're fantastic in cold weather. They're made for cold weather and anadromous fishing, and they do the job fantastically. The Commando comes in at $65. It sounds kind of inexpensive, but remember, these are the heads. You're going to have to add a tip, and you're going to have to add the running line to it as well. And last but not least, let's talk about the best value line for 2024. And this one might surprise some people. I am going with an old school company. They've been around for a long, long, long time. You've probably fished with some of their lines, especially when you first got started in the fly game. And this honor this year goes to Cortland and their 444 Classic Peach. The Cortland 444 Classic Peach not only costs you under $70, it's got some great performance for the money. It might be one of the better performance dollar ratios out there right now. I love the Classic Peach color. It's a retro feel and it works. It just works and it looks good if you ask me. It's a classic weight forward fly line. It casts and floats well. It might not cast, shoot, or float quite as well as some of those more expensive lines that have a little bit more technology built in. But I'm telling you, this thing does the job and it does it just great. Don't be afraid to pick up Cortland's 444 Classic Peach. I hope you found this list informative. It was a lot of fun to put it together. It's a lot of fun to test out different lines. Now, of course, these are opinions. These are not facts. Well, I think they're facts. I'm going to tell you they're facts. But you might disagree, and that's okay. I think if you use this as a guideline, at least to start with, check these lines out. And remember, lines are not meant to last forever. They will wear out. Just watch where you're stepping. Keep them clean. If you're storing them for a long time, use a conditioner to keep them supple, and you will get a lot of use out of your fly line. If you could just take a moment and like this video and follow us here on this channel, that would be a big deal. Thank you so much. It helps out a ton when you do that. One last reminder to click those links down below if you like any of these lines and you want to check them out. Thanks again for being here. This is Into Fly Fishing. I'm Nick Jovanovich, and we'll catch you out here on the river next time. Take care.